I used to think that crying made you weak. I would try to do everything to avoid feeling what was going on. I would try intellectualizing it. I would try making sense of what I was feeling. I tried distracting myself by doing. And it wasn't until I allowed myself to turn into a puddle and let go of this strong person persona of living my life in such a masculine way, and then I wanted to heal my feminine energy. Once I gave myself permission to start healing this part of myself, it was as if I allowed a little crack to form in my armor. And once that crack formed, it's like the floodgates opened and I could not shut it off. When I tell you that I cried for 4 years, I'm not kidding. And it was really hard for me because I hated crying. I hated anything that made me feel vulnerable or look vulnerable. I hated looking weak. I hated looking like I didn't have myself together. And I hated not feeling like I had control over my emotions because I had lived my life in such a controlled way of being. And once those floodgates opened and I couldn't shut them back up, I just felt really out of control with my life. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mayra and I help women start living their lives for themselves again. On this channel, we talk all about authenticity, healing the feminine, and becoming your most aligned self. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And although it didn't feel fun in the process, I can look back now and see like that was exactly what I needed because I had suppressed so many of my emotions for so much of my life that once I let that crack come out, it was like everything just had to release from my body and just like get out because I had numbed myself for so long and was holding on to so much unprocessed emotion. I was such an intellectualizer. This was just for me learning from a very young age that I was not emotionally supported. And so the only way that I could make things make sense was for me to intellectualize them and almost come from a place of understanding, right? So understanding why somebody else did something, not allowing myself to feel what it was that was bothering me, or maybe I felt it, but I didn't express it. And on top of that, I'm Mexican, and coming from, Mexican culture, how I experienced it was you got made fun of for crying. So they would have like nicknames like Chillona, which means crybaby, or, your peers around would literally chant like, oh, she wants to cry, she wants to cry. And so you learned from a young age to just like suck it up and not cry, to not be made fun of. But also a very popular line was, I'll give you something to cry about. So it was just something that was passed down to me as this belief that crying made you weak. So when I was in the midst of it all, in the process of it all, it was really hard for me. I would literally ask, like, when am I going to stop crying about everything? I just wanted that part of the healing process to be done. But when I look back at it in the grand scheme of things, 4 years is really not that much compared to like my whole life. It was a lot of unlearning, processing different things that had to come up until there were literally no more tears left to cry. And that's not saying that I don't cry. I cry. I still cry about everything, but it's not in the same sense as it's like healing. Now I cry when I watch a video or watch a movie or something touches me. Like I literally, now I call myself a crybaby. Once I finally let go of that strong person persona and I kind of just let my guards down, I literally became a puddle. And it really taught me the importance of processing your emotions and how things can literally get stuck and stagnant in your body for a really long time. And I read a lot of books about somatic healing and regulating my nervous system during this process because I understood, even though I didn't want to be experiencing it, I understood the importance of releasing these stagnant emotions in the process. So I read Body Keeps Score, What Happened to You. I can't remember. I read one. It's called something about the vagus nerve. I can't remember the title of it. I'll link it down below. But also I read one called The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor. And that one really fascinated me because it talked about how there's now research that shows that when you do not process emotions, it can lead to things like inflammation in the body. autoimmune diseases, different types of cancers, just a lot of issues within the body. So not only does it cause mental turmoil, it literally has an effect on your body. And I think society is starting to get caught up that everything in the body is connected. We're not just like your arms and your head and, your legs, and everything is separate. Everything is literally connected. And I've been learning a lot about fascia and how like some fascia in your feet is literally connected to like your neck. So there's a lot more research and a lot more information about how everything that happens in your body is all connected and will have an effect on you in some way. You can look around and see people who have not processed emotions. So many people are walking with their shoulders up to their head, like almost in like a scared position, or people looking down, people having a hard time making eye contact, people having migraines and tension headaches from clenching their jaws so much and holding their bodies in a place of just tension and just bracing all day, having that stress in your body just constantly just tight. People don't realize the effect that has on your body when your body is literally bracing for impact, but nothing is coming, and how much effort and energy that takes your body to hold yourself in those positions all day for extended periods of time. And a lot of that is from unprocessed emotions, unprocessed things that people just don't want to look at or deal with because it feels so much easier not to face them, when in reality, your body is what's taking the brunt of it. But it's almost like there's this disconnect where people don't realize the impact that this high level of stress or this high level of anxiety is causing different issues that are going on, like digestive problems. Somebody who has really high anxiety probably has a hard time, with digestion. Like, what can't you stomach? What are you making yourself stomach? Are you making yourself stomach being in a negative relationship, a toxic relationship? Are you suppressing things that you're wanting to say and locking boundaries? Like, what is it in your environment that isn't making you feel safe? And I remember reading another book by Louise Hayes. It was called You Can Heal Your Life. And it has a list of all of these ailments that people can experience and what the cause of each of those things are. So she has a theory that any medical condition can be caused by some repressed thing or emotion that you are not willing to deal with. So whether that's high blood pressure or diabetes or something, she has like an explanation for every one of those things. And I remember when I was reading it, I was like, wow, this is a very unique, I guess, perspective of looking at things. But I read this book like 2017 or 2018, I can't really remember, but a while ago. So a lot of this research about the body and emotions and everything being connected, there wasn't a lot of information, at least that I knew of at that time, compared to what it is now. And once I read that book by Dr. Gabor Mate, and I thought about that Louise Hay book, I'm like, wow, this lady was like way ahead of her time. And I've always been really interested in psychology and just the self-development world. I'm a psychology major. I have a life coaching certification. I'm very interested in this self-development world. But back then, I was always intellectualizing information and processing very much with my left brain rather than my right brain of feeling. And I think that's why it took me so long to get to where I finally got to a point where I felt like I could balance the two, was because I was always intellectualizing. I wasn't allowing myself to feel what it was that needed to be felt. And I look back at my past and I would intellectualize what happened to me when I was younger. I would, come from a space of however old I was. Let's say I was reflecting and I was 25. So whatever information I had at the age of 25, I was able to think from that standpoint, rather than thinking about this version of myself who was maybe 5 or 6, who didn't have all this intellect and who didn't have all this information, who only knew feelings. I was looking at it from a lens of, the 25-year-old, 28-year-old, when I thought about those moments in my life, just being really understanding to my caregivers and, whatever it was, but not looking at what the 5-year-old was feeling and what needed to come up based off of what a 5-year-old's thought process would be. They would feel emotions, they would feel sadness, anger, frustration, but they weren't able to communicate that. So all of this intellectualizing led me along a life of disconnect from my body, because whenever I did anything, I used my mind to think about things versus tapping into my body and listening to what my body needed from me. And that's a big reason why once I finally surrendered and allowed and decided that I didn't want to live in survival mode anymore and I just wanted to heal that feminine version of myself, that is why once that I gave myself that permission, everything just came up. Everything just had to be released, and I honestly didn't know what to do with all of it because I had never allowed myself to process emotion before. That I was very overwhelmed by it. It was a lot, and I actually decided to go to therapy for it because I needed to sit with an emotion, a memory, something, because I had never processed them before. And it was honestly so perfect because she specialized in emotional healing, which was exactly what I needed, because I didn't need to just talk about things anymore, because I could do talk therapy and intellectualize, and I know that there's different therapists who do talk therapy and you get great benefits from that. But for me, with this emotional healing, somatic type of healing therapist that I got, it was exactly what I needed to help me process the emotions that kept coming up. And once I was able to process them and release them, I was finally able to stop crying about that. And now I don't look at crying as a form of weakness. I just am like, okay, what is my body needing to tell me? What is it that I'm needing to release? And I just allow it to come up and move through me rather than pushing it down like I used to. But I don't beat myself up over it. And I'm like, why am I crying? There's nothing wrong. This doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't do that anymore. I'm just like, okay. And I just surrender to it. I don't know what's going on, but something's needing to come up. So I'm just going to let it come up. And the most important thing that I learned from this whole process was learning how to become my own support system. Listening to my body and checking in with myself whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, whenever I'm feeling anxious, whenever I'm feeling just unsettled. I ask myself, what do I need? What tools in my toolbox can I use to help this energy, this emotion move through me and release itself so I can move past it and get back to a state of calm? So I'm going to share with you a few things that you can do to start becoming your own support system. Number one is to stop intellectualizing. And this was a really big one for me. Stop trying to make sense of what you're feeling. Stop trying to give it reason. Stop trying to think your way out of it. Just let it flow, because you don't know what's been stuck in your body, especially like if you're going through your own healing journey. You don't know what has been stuck in your body that something triggered, and now you're crying. And even though your mind can't make sense of it, doesn't change the fact that it needs to be released. So just allow it to move through you rather than trying to make sense of it, because the more you try to make sense of it, the more you are abandoning yourself and the support that it needs. Sometimes things just need to be witnessed, and it doesn't need to make any sense. And if you just witness it and allow it, it moves through you a lot quicker than you constantly trying to just figure out what's wrong with me. Why am I crying? This doesn't make any sense. And just being really hard on yourself. Just allow it to flow. Number two is analyze anger. I feel like people are a little bit more comfortable with the emotion of anger versus something like sadness. And anger is a secondary emotion. So whenever you are experiencing anger, do something to help move that anger through your body. Whether that's screaming into a pillow, whether that's going on a run, whether that's dancing, do something to like move your body and like shake that anger out. So that way, once that feeling kind of passes, you can look and see like, hey, what's underneath that? What is it that's really bothering me? Maybe you feel hurt about something. Maybe you feel like a boundary was crossed. Maybe you feel disrespected. Maybe you feel let down. You're not able to get to the core of what's really bothering you if you're just allowing the anger to kind of blind you and only feeling anger because it feels safer. Allow it to move through you so that you can get to the core of the issue and figure out what's really bothering you. Number 3, build a self-soothing menu. This is going to take time as you learn to figure out the different cues that your body gives you when you start paying attention to what it's asking. But just depending on what it is, have a menu of different things that you can try to help regulate your nervous system and to support yourself during these emotional times that will come up. So if you're feeling anxious, maybe doing like box breathing. If you're feeling rejected, giving yourself a hug and, talking to yourself like you would a younger version of yourself when you needed someone to have your back. If you're feeling tired, honoring that and just allowing your body some rest rather than forcing productivity. Just figure out how you can support yourself throughout the day as a way to regulate your nervous system. Number 4, stop numbing yourself. If you're anything like me, you would probably try to busy yourself so you don't have to think about what is bothering you. The only way you're going to be able to process things is if you actually tap into what it is that's bothering you. So stop scrolling on social media and binge watching TV shows, listening to podcasts and just having that background noise going on all the time and overstimulating your mind as a way to escape. And listen, I scroll on social media. I don't want you to think that you just have to completely stop it. But if you're doing it as a way to cope, to numb yourself, then you need to stop doing that and actually check in with yourself and figure out what it is that you need to process. And instead of doing something like that, maybe you journal, maybe you do a voice note about what's bothering you, maybe you call a friend and have a conversation about what's going on in your life or a family member, maybe you go on a nature walk to connect with nature and just be present in the moment rather than distracting yourself by constantly stimulating your mind with different things. Number 5, give yourself grace. I think I end with this point in every video, but healing is a long process. Emotional healing is a long process, especially if you're somebody who is an intellectualizer who felt like emotions were not safe or learned from a young age that you were not supported emotionally. It's a new way of being. And if you go through a similar pathway that I went through, where I was literally a puddle for like 4 years, it's a lot. And I know that we always want to push past discomfort because obviously it doesn't feel good. But just knowing that what's coming up is necessary and is really the only way you're going to get to a point where you are more regulated and are able to heal more of that feminine energy and have more of a balance between the two energies versus just being in your left brain all the time and not process and just trying to process emotions rather than feel the emotions. And really the way to get through this quicker is to feel through the emotions. My first 2 years of this healing journey, I didn't understand that concept as well. I had learned the information, but I hadn't put it into practice. Once I put it into practice, I was able to move through things a lot quicker. And even me just being able to talk about this a year ago, I would have not even been able to record this video because I would literally be sobbing the entire time and probably would not have been able to get a word out. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to go through the process. You can't rush through it, but if you just go through the process, you will get there and it'll become easier. I am proof of that. So I would love to know down in the comments if you are somebody who is an intellectualizer, which one of these steps are you going to start taking in order to start the process of processing your emotions. And if you are ready to start healing your feminine energy and you want some support through that, I would love to help support you through this. You can click the link down below. We can hop on a discovery call and see how I can best support you through this process. I also have a free workbook that you can download on how you can start living your life for yourself again. If any of this resonated with you, please make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And also share this with anybody that you think would benefit from this conversation. Make sure to click right here to check out my most recent upload, and I will catch you in the next video.